is public comment session, and I do not see anyone here for that, so we'll move to the next item, which is approval of the minutes. And we've all had a chance to look at those. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Are there any comments, corrections? Anything? Okay, all in favor of approval of our minutes, say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. And then our next item on the agenda is to approve our audits, and we'll let Mr. Fay introduce our guest that feels like family.
They do, because I mean, I remember Joe when he was young, and I remember Jim when he was born. So that's really great, and we always look forward to a great relationship, and more importantly, and fundamentally, we appreciate the professionalism and the quality job that you do, and the reputation that you have, not only here at this utility, which I think was one of the first under Brown, Jacob, McDaniel, but not your first, because you were with the first firm that came in, and her ward was part of that group. But your reputation throughout all of the utilities that you do is second to none. I've never heard anything but praise. And Joe Brown, I can introduce you, and you can introduce Jim, and y'all can say anything you want as long as it's positive. Stephen McNally, this is his first time going through, so if you have anything really good to say, take your time. You've got maybe an hour and a half, to roll through that.
I won't take an hour and a half because my grandson has a basketball game tonight.
Well, good.
Senior in high school, and I got to get there before 8 o'clock. So
Yeah.
up until then, I'm good. But thank you all. We really appreciate being of service to you. You have a really great staff here. Your county department is top notch, and it certainly makes our job easier. And as far as this year's audit, everything went well. I don't know. I think y'all got a hard copy, but you also got your own copy digitally. But if you look through the report, which you don't have to do it tonight, but basically I'm just going to tell you that we gave a clean opinion again this year. Everything was good. As far as the opinion on the internal control and financial reporting and compliance, that was good too. We found no instances of any non-compliance. Also in that report, and you all probably already read this, but there is a management discussion analysis there, which your management rights, I think it's very good, kind of explain what's going on. I think you probably already discussed this anyway, so it's probably nothing new for you. And like I said earlier, we were required to tell you that we didn't encounter any problems during the audit, and we made no adjustments. Here again, speaks very highly of your staff. It's a pleasure to come to an audit where you don't have to adjust everything. So you guys are really blessed with good people here, and I know you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Take your time, Joe.
But I don't have anything else to say. If y'all have any questions, Jim and I will try to answer them. But like I say again, thank you for letting us be of service, and thank you for just making the job so easy with the staff that y'all have here.
Anybody have comments or questions?
Kind of broader perspective. How's the regional utility? How are the regional utilities doing? I mean, in terms of how do you feel like the other utility you may survey or audit may do, and how do we kind of stack up with them?
Well, I think you're at the top of the ones we audit. As you know, there's a lot of issues and facts that affect every year. And this year, y'all know the TVA fuel cost was kind of very high this year. It's kind of hard to made for a tough year for y'all in the electric department. Your water and sewer department did well. Here again, you have no debt. That's a plus. I don't see that anywhere else for the water and sewer department. So y'all stack up really well as far as from what we see.
It sounds like everybody's kind of read the same problems. I assume labor, higher utilities from the TVA being passed through,
Yes.
kind of inflation stuff's in there, but
It makes it tough.
yeah.
It makes it tough to pass on to your customers too, because they feel that pressure.
Have other utility companies done similar that they've had to end up having to pass those
Yes,
expenses along?
you don't have any choice.
Did you have a question or comment? No. Stephen, any questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you. It's nice to be in good hands. Okay.
Hello, folks. So I ran both all three jobs this year. We do the electric and water department in August timeframe is when we do the actual field work, and then for the pension plan we come back October timeframe, I believe, and finish that up and get them all out in the month of December. So that's the comptroller's requirement, and we've always met that with you all, so that's good. You do have in front of you the pension plan report, and that's what I want to address very briefly with you. I don't have an hour because I want to eat dinner.
Mhm.
So similar to what Joe said on the water department and the electric department, clean audit opinion, no findings, no finding of non-compliance. So it was a clean audit. There's also a management discussion and analysis in here specific for the pension plan, not for the utility operations. I do want to draw your attention, in addition to those two items, to the required supplementary information that's on page 18 of your report. This is a report when GASB adopted the new pension requirements for accounting. It was 10 years ago, and so one of the required statements, or all the required statements, are 10-year statements that describe the pension liability as well as the assets that you have in the trust fund for 10 years. So it's a really good picture of historically what has impacted your pension liability and where your assets have compared to that, or your trust investments. And then on the next page after that, on page 19, this compares. So the actuaries come in and say, you've got to put this much in your plan in order to make it, funded in the future. And the CUB has always contributed more than that amount consistently over the years. And this schedule reflects that, as well as shows you that number as a percentage of your covered payroll, the employees that are affected. So I just wanted to bring those two statements to your attention just because they are very historical and good for reference purposes. So I don't have anything else unless somebody has a specific question for me.
Anybody have comments or questions?
That 10-year view is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a requirement, but just to see the payroll increase 50% over 10 years is
Yep. Look.
Okay, I think that covers our questions. We'll
All right.
do some in-depth reading now.
That's right.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Can we vote on all three at once, Greg? Do we need to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the approval of all three of the audits
So moved.
and a second?
second.
And even though we've asked questions, are there any questions that have come to anybody's mind to direct at any of our auditors? Okay, then all in favor of approval of our audits, say yes. Yes. And that is approved unanimously. Thank you. We do feel like you all are family. It's nice to be in good hands. Thank you.
And if anything does come up, we're happy to address it.
We sure will.
Let
Yeah.
us know.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Okay, and now we go to vouchers. Do I hear a motion for approval and discussion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And Mr. Fay, can you go over those with us?
There's nothing that I know of that is not, that's an outlier. I think it's pretty standard. I mean, we obviously go through, there's a tremendous amount of work and money that we're looking at. You see over $10 million in electric. I mean, that's rocking through a lot of month, and obviously the lion's share of that will always be the cost for power and what we pay TVA. But unless someone has a question specific, I don't know of anything that I would want to necessarily draw your attention to say that this is not usual.
Okay. Anybody have a question or comment about anything? Seeing none, all in favor to approve the vouchers for this past month, say yes. Yes. And that motion is approved unanimously. And now that we go to the monthly reports, and I believe we have electric and sewer and water.
Yes, ma'am. You should have received all of those, and the mild weather. Of course, the issue always for me will be electric until we move into these winter months. What you're looking at is reflected in November, and November has been impacted by this mild, record-setting mild weather. Our load factor is 49.6%, which means over half of our capacity is not being used. And we pay on the calendar month to TVA, and the coldest day, which represented our highest demand charge, spiked between 7 and 8 a.m. on the 29th of November. We couldn't quite make it to December. And the next highest day was the 30th. So the delta between the 29th and the 30th in terms of KW was 16,455. And that's what we pay our demand charge on. And that represented $178,000 on that 1 hour in that month. Now, the gross energy return on that was $1,780. Paid $178,000, grossed in $1,700, and of the $1,700, about $1,200 of that went back to TVA. So we're looking at about a $400 gain on a $178,000 cost. Also for November, from November 23 to November 22, the difference in what we paid in tax equivalents that the board approved in November, because we true up in that month, we went from $103,000 in 2022 to $220,000 in 2023. It's $116,000 difference. So that's where we can get a big difference looking from one year to the next. The good news is, and I've talked to you about load factor, the good news is we're back into the 60s for December. So we should be in a very positive position next month. And the water and sewer continue to exceed the forecast by about $150,000. But the operating and the maintenance costs, they're only slightly off by less than 1%. And even in electric, the operating and maintenance costs are only off by less than 2%. What's got us is the revenue, and what's hit us there is the fact that we have very, very mild weather, and then it spikes on a day, and that one day costs us $178,000. So unless you've got a question, that's all I have.
Any questions? Okay, we need a motion for approval of both the electric and water and sewer.
So moved.
Right, and then second? Do we have okay. We have a second, and then all in favor say yes. Yes. And that approved unanimously also. And now then, if we can go to the project status reports, and we don't need approval, but we'd like to hear
That's pretty
information about
easy,
it.
Madam Chair, because the essentially these projects that you've already been familiarized with, and we have gone over in the initial work order. And I'll be glad to add anything questions, but I can just tell you that they're both going very well, and there's no reason to believe that both of these will not easily be completed by the projected completion date in March. Todd, am I missing anything?
No, sir.
That's pretty,
That's
pretty
all-
steady
That's
Eddie on
right,
this.
yeah.
All going well.
Okay. Any questions anybody has about these two? Okay. And that brings us to other business. Mr. Fay, you want to share with us?
I do have some other business I've got. First, our new director of accounting and finance apparently has contacted the state comptroller's office to get approval for a 1 hour worth of training credit for the audit report that just came in.
That's good.
So apparently, those that are here are going to get credit for an hour training, which goes towards, your required training, which obviously the previous director of accounting finance was too lazy to try to do that convenience for you. So I'm happy to tell you that, and I appreciate Dusty making that effort because he thought, well, let's just try it, and it's something you got to send off, and they review it, and then they come back and approve it. So
Thank
that
you.
worked really well. So thank you, Dusty, on that, and all of you will receive that level of credit. Next,
Are
sir.
we gonna collect the documentation and all that for last year? Doesn't that have to go in sometime?
Yeah, and I think Dusty's got
Yes.
all of that.
Yes, so what
You
we
get a
have to do-
certificate.
Yes, we have a certificate I'll need you to fill out, or I can help you fill it out for any training that you completed last calendar year. So
Okay.
I'll send you an email with that information, and if you can send back your certificates, I'll get it all logged for you.
And Stephen, I think he's gone over with you what you've got your requirements are.
We turn it in every January for what we've done the prior year.
Right.
remember?
Or go to jail. Those are the two
Yeah,
options
that's
that
what-
you have. That's right. I would like to take a minute and share an update on our efforts and plans for the Bull Run site. To summarize, because time and people and dates get away, on the 8th of last month, Todd and I had a meeting with Joe Hoagland, who is the Vice President of Enterprise and Innovation at TVA. And this meeting was a follow-up to a previous meeting we had with Bert Robinson, the Director of Government Relations, and Robbie Ansary, who is the Customer Relations Manager. During the meeting with Mr. Hoagland, he informed us that TVA is considering using the Bull Run turbine generator as a synchronous condenser, which means they want to use part of the structure. Because initially, I told them we wanted to mow grass over all of that. But if they have a legitimate public power use for any of that facility, I support that because it's their structure. So that decision hasn't been finalized yet. They even talked about potentially battery. They're doing battery storage on some of that. So if that comes to fruition, that's fine. But in conjunction with that, they have an industrial prospect. And this is a technology-based company that's interested in utilizing a portion of that Bull Run structure for research on nuclear fusion. And the goal of this project is to perform fusion experiments that generate more energy than they consume. And you may have seen some of that on the news. It's in December of last year was the first time with lasers that they were able to generate what they're calling a mini sun, because it actually, with the fusion, creates more energy than the energy it took to create it. It's a big deal. It's a big breakthrough in terms of the future of how energy production is going to go. So there's a lot of interest in that, and Todd and I met along with representatives from TVA. We met with this prospect, and based on our discussions, I am confident that they're going to choose to establish their presence here at the Bull Run site. It's a very big deal for us. Securing this industry has the potential to impact the regional industrial park, as I envision that, significantly and positively, because that will be the anchor for a lot of additional industry that's going to support that research and development into nuclear fusion. So the breakthrough technology has the attention of the Biden administration because they're making a lot of grant money available, as well as the governor's office, our county government, TVA, and the Oak Ridge National Lab. So in conjunction with this active project, David King of the Oak Ridge National Lab contacted me, and Mr. King leads the communications division at Oak Ridge National Lab. You may know him. I don't know. One of you all.
Yeah, his last name is Kime.
Kime?
Yep.
Very nice guy. He very nice person. Well, we met for a couple of hours, and we hosted them here, and we went through, gave them a tour of our operations center, which is state of the art, and we had a very productive conversation about our unmatched reliability with FLISR and our industry leading success with DVR, dynamic voltage regulation. And Mr. Kime was impressed and even likened our presentation, which made me smile, to a Shark Tank project, which I'm really not familiar with, but apparently Todd was familiar with, and said now that was a compliment. He asked if he could share what we are achieving with his contacts in the Department of Energy, and we agreed. I also shared my ideas for a national grid electricity transmission system that's similar to the interstate highway. My vision is that the federal government from coast to coast build a transmission line and they can take over some that's existing. But the bottom line, it's the backbone. So the federal government will regulate transmission, and then we're able, through distribution, come off of that, and that way you're not dealing with towers falling down like Texas and California and the things like that. I think the federal government needs to be in a nationwide transmission grid, and I think they're looking at that too. So we've got inroads into ORNL with him, and he assured us that any new industrial prospects they want to bring to us so we can close the deal. Because if electricity is an issue, we'll close the deal. Now, last night, I received an email from Mr. Keim introducing me to Matthew Chinthavalle. And if you can correct me on that, that would be great. He is the head of the Energy Systems Integration at ORNL. And what he wanted to do is lay the groundwork for a meeting. And as a side note, Mr. Chinthavalle holds 3 degrees in electrical engineering, including a PhD from UT, has published 109 research works and 1,782 citations. So I can tell you, with a meeting with him, I'm going to let Todd do most of the talking. That was a smart move. Thanks to our contacts with Steve Clapp, I've been in discussions with Tim Daniels, who is a staff consultant with the lab, working with the Department of Energy, and they're looking for a utility that will help, and I'll quote this, develop and evaluate the effectiveness of new communication solutions on utility infrastructure, demonstrate how legacy grid communication infrastructure and operation paradigms can be updated to support coordination of DERMS, which is distributed energy resources, i.e. virtual power plant and dynamic voltage regulation and all of that. And since there is federal grant money available for this, which is significant, by the way, we're exploring what the next steps are. And for what appears to be what I think a match made in heaven, I don't know, and nor do they know of a utility in the valley that's better suited to be able to support their vision of taking the legacy system where they're still dealing with mechanical meters and moving it up to what we're trying to do right here. That's what TVA wants to do for the other 151 LPCs, but this is more on a national level. So we're, especially if there's a significant fund, they're talking about $4.5 million funding involved, and we would get compensated for our assistance in that. That would be just great for CEB. Finally, which is not related to Bull Run or ORNL, I've been asked by TVA to host a group of 10 representatives from Washington. They want to fly in, and they're headed by the Vice President and Chief of Federal Affairs, Jessica Hogue. They want to tour our Operations Center and experience what has now become a famous PowerPoint presentation on DVR and FLISR and our virtual power plant. This will make somewhere north of what I'm counting is 30 different representatives from TVA and 5 from the Electric Power Research Institute, EPRI, that have come here, and we have educated on how our achievements can be replicated by all the LPCs in the valley. The DVR technology alone being used here, when applied valley-wide, is about 2,000 megawatts, or equal to 2 nuclear valley-wide plants. So by leveraging the aggregated DVR to help shave TVA's peak, we will not only provide significant savings for TVA, which is millions of dollars, but also benefit the local ratepayer because they'll be able to use that technology as we have. What did we save this last $80,000 just 80 plus thousand on DVR alone? So they'll be able to reap that benefit on a local level as well as a valley-wide level. So I look forward to, I know this is a lot, I'm sorry. I look forward to keeping you all informed about our efforts to improve the public power model in the valley because we are fast becoming inundated with several different avenues, not only from the Bull Run site, but also through TVA. And now, if we can capture the attention which we have of the Washington group and the Department of Energy group, I'm thinking that that's a very positive thing. So I know there's a lot to give you on other business. I'm sorry, but
No,
a lot's happening as of,
But that's
quickly.
such a compliment to you and the team to be able to have that kind of recognition and people coming from Washington and TVA to learn from us. So, on behalf of the board, thank you. We're very impressed with
Great, thank you.
recognition. I did have one question. Was that all, Greg?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I did have one question. Several people have asked, and I think it even hit the I Love Clinton website or Facebook page.
Sewer odor.
Sewer odor.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
I can absolutely. Apparently, on the 4th of January, and Greg, you help me if I step out off here, but now I'm going from memory. January the 4th, we went and jetted some sewer lines, which is part of our standard thing. So it's a big machine that we have there, which has an exhaust system associated with it. There wasn't a problem, but it was a routine. Now, there are odors coming out of that exhaust system while you're jetting it. But that's about a 45-minute process. That about right, Greg?
Yes.
I mean, so very short period of time on January 4th. What came out was January the 5th, and that came out on that. What's the stink? Well, we immediately went down there, and we have odor equipment, monitoring equipment that it literally monitors, and it goes up, so many parts per million. And I think we've got an alert. What is it? About 25 parts per million.
Yes.
And when we went down and checked all of that, it was at 1 part per billion. So I'm telling you, not much, not anything, not anything detectable. Our guys couldn't detect anything, and the equipment couldn't detect anything. So we're thinking, A, it's not sewer, or B, they remembered from the day before in that 45-minute window that something was smelling. The only way it'll catch us is if there's what we call a slug. And that is because we treat all the way from the interstate down. And that should be treated with chemicals. Everything we receive from the county, part of our contract is you got to treat that at the site because chemicals can make all that stuff go away. Without chemicals, it literally eats the manholes. Manholes can't hardly pick up. They're that thick. We've seen them about paper thin, because all of that eats it up. You got to treat the chemicals. So if what we call a slug gets through an untreated portion, that rate works all the way through the system unless we can find it where we'll be treating chemicals big time, and to try to keep that odor down. But that is rare. I mean, it's very rare because we make sure that sewer odor is not a problem. We have been called for odor and gone out and investigated, and there was definitely an odor, and we tracked it down to a dead raccoon, under a dumpster. I mean, a lot of things people say are sewer that are not. But if we are notified, and I don't know that we were ever notified. I don't know if the public ever called. Anybody ever call?
No, sir.
We just saw it on the internet. I Love Clinton. I mean, if nobody calls, if they did call, we'd be in the truck right at them right away to try to locate whatever the odor it is that they smell, you say. And then it's certainly if it's us, we would take countermeasures to minimize that. But the only thing I can think of is the day before when we were jetting through that exhaust, and that is very localized in a very short period of time. That's the only thing that could potentially make sense to me, or it's something totally different.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. I read that too, and I thought since we were meeting, I would ask. So
And then it's, of course, everything stinks 365 days a year in every part of Clinton.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Have we ever monitored the parts per million that come out of that exhaust? Just curiosity.
No, we have not.
Because of the machinery, the equipment that we have, it's fixed within the system. So we get alerts, so we'll know something bad's coming down.
Yeah.
It's not like a portable hose you can just put on that thing. But I don't know, I don't know of again, A, I don't know if that was the problem, and B, we've been doing that for years and it's not been a problem.
Okay, I was just curious and thank you for sharing that. Mr. Combs, you have any questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Clark?
No, ma'am.
Mr. McMillan?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none. And Mr. Fay, you had anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then this meeting is adjourned.